Live from the Heartland Mama studio, this is the Heartland Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Heidi Henry. The Heartland Mamas podcast is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook, and proudly part of the Demcast USA network. As of today, we have 337 days left to save the USA. 337 days from November 5th, 2024. And every time we talk, I tell you to get out there and do something to preserve our nation and our community. So let me tell you what I did today. Today I went down to Springfield, Illinois, and I filed my petitions to run for the Illinois House of Representatives in the 75th District, which is 5 counties. And I was slated in this position last year. And slating means that the 5 county chairs asked me to run for the open seat because this was a seat that we had not intended to run anybody in. But then the incumbent Republican lost to a far right Republican, and the Democratic Party chairs came to me and said, look, we got to do something. Will you do it? So after talking to the big guy, that's what I call my husband, um, we decided that yes, I would run. And I talked to him because he's retired and I'm not, and I work all the time on our farm. All the time I'm working. So I wanted to talk to him because it would mean being away from home more. It's more of an investment of his time and effort. So it's really good to talk to your spouse, your significant other, about what you're going to do and make sure they're on board. So I had 3 months and 11 days to run last time, and I couldn't catch him. I could not catch Jed Davis. And because number one, it was drawn a red district for the Republican incumbent that lost. Okay, it was drawn for him. And so in that means traditionally in this area, people vote red, they vote Republican because that's just what they always do. That's what their families have done. That's what they've done for generations. They're still mad at Jimmy Carter. I don't know, whatever. That's what they do. We're going to talk about Carter and Nixon and the farm collapse of 1980 one of these days, because that's something I'm kind of I won't say an expert on, but I know a lot about it anyway, and have strong opinions on those things and why people vote Republican in my area. Because this area, the 75th district, is very different. It's suburbia all the way to farm and field. Okay, so we've got a lot of different folks that live out here. My area is, I live on a small farm. I've lived here for 34 years now. So this is what I do for a living. And I always work, always, 7 days a week. I love my job. So, but I also love the idea of serving our community in a greater capacity. I've always been a activist and a community organizer and a volunteer. You know, if people call me a problem solver, if they've got a problem, they call me and I work together and I work with the right people to get stuff done for them, right? So when they asked me to run last year, of course, I said yes. When they asked me to run again this time, I said, yes, of course. I never really stopped running. I knew I wasn't going to win last time, but I knew I had to do the prep work to win next November. So I need you on my team to get there to the win. And let me tell you why. Jed Davis, the guy that's there currently, it collects about $211,000 in salary per diem, which is what you're paid per day to go down to Springfield, mileage, office fees, staff fees. So for $211,000 a year, what you get from him is talk about a 4-year-old mask mandate and how the pandemic was handled almost 4 years ago. And if drag queens read to children, and was there a vaccine mandate? So this is all old news. He doesn't talk about the future. He doesn't have a plan or a vision for the future, but I do. I always have. There's always something to think about in the future. So for the $211,000 plus dollars per year, you are getting back into our community nothing. He's delivered nothing back to us. He goes down, collects a check, complains about the governor, complains about a 4-year-old mask mandate, and does nothing for us. Nothing. He has done nothing to fund public education. And I wonder if that's because he's a private for-profit, not-for-profit school. I don't know, because he certainly recruited a lot because of that mask mandate. So he's got to keep that talking point going, right? So he hasn't delivered anything. And when I talk to local community leaders, they're like, yeah, we're still talking about the mask mandate and what happened during COVID and about the governor. And really, the governor's done really well for us. We've had 9 credit upgrades. We've got higher minimum wage, which means there's less poverty in our community. But we don't see him talking about kitchen table issues like inflation and property taxes. Nothing, nothing. There's nothing, no plans. There's no plans to help the poor, the sick, the veteran, the elderly, the children. Nothing. Zero. So they're frustrated with them. I can't imagine that you, knowing that we are spending that much money to get nothing each year, aren't frustrated as well. So I always say that a public servant, which is what I'm striving to be, listens to the community, collects the stories and the thoughts of the people in the community, works together on a strategy to fix the problem, because you can only know the problem by talking to people and getting back to them when they call your office, even if they aren't the person that probably didn't vote for you, Jed, because I see you. People tell me that you don't call them back. So you need to get back to them. That's your job, even when it's hard. Even when it's hard, you got to do that. There's been nothing to talk about development of addiction issues, and nothing, because if you don't fit into his small pocket of ideology, religious and political ideology, he doesn't care what you're thinking or feeling. He doesn't care what you need. And in this 5-county community, we have over 100 different versions of Christianity. I'm sure me being Episcopalian doesn't conform with his idea of Christianity. So if I don't conform with his, how do I get my point across, right? I taught Sunday school for 22 years. It's got to have some value, right? And I don't foist my religion on anyone else. I don't care where you go or if you don't go. It doesn't matter to me. And I don't care if drag queens read storybooks to children. I really don't care, because we have huge issues in this community, and we're doing nothing to solve them. We have gone through in the 75th over a decade of disinvestment. And I see that down here, especially in the area I'm in, where the disinvestment is crushing. It's crushing, because I'm all the way down in the southwest corner of the district. And down here, the lack of attention from our state representative for over a decade, this guy and his predecessor is crushing us. Because unless you're making over $80,000 a year, you do not matter. You do not matter. Unless you're in that specific ideology of religion and politics, you don't matter. And yet all voices must be heard, or we can never move forward and have a future in this country or in this community. So, it's been a big nothing sandwich from him, from Jed Davis. And I want to tell you that I know that we need property tax relief. We need better funding for public education. We need education parity. We need to address addiction issues. We need to address a whole host of issues. And we'll talk about the issues that I want to talk about one day. Not today. I'm just going to kind of lightly touch on stuff. But you just can't toss everybody else aside that doesn't agree 100% with you, Jed. That's just not how this works. When you're a community public servant, you serve the entire community, not try to make the community conform to your version of religion, of ideology, of republicanism, because you don't speak for most of the Republicans out here. How do I know? Because they come and tell me that you don't. That unless you're part of this sect that you're in, you don't hear them. And you're not responding. And you're not helping anyone. And that's your job. The core of your existence in this job is to help other people in our community, to deliver the goods in our community. Anyway, the Heartland Mamas was not developed to be a Heidi soapbox. It was developed to bring information on local and federal and world topics. So over the next few months, we're going to have lots of candidates come in prior to the primary. We're going to hear what their versions are, what they think is needed. We're going to talk to a Midwest climate expert on is our past and science dictating our future, and if it's going to be okay or if we're overreacting. We're going to talk to people that have are experts in public education in our community and across the United States. So that's all that's coming up. But I want you to know that we have so much work to do, and I can get it done for you. I'm a workhorse. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a problem solver and a workaholic. So elect me and shit'll get done. That's the God's honest truth. Anyway, from the edge of the Great Red Divide, this is Heidi Henry, and this has been the Heartland Mamas podcast. Have a great day.